Alright, so we're going to jump in and create our development environment. Now I'm using Windows 10, but feel free to use any operating system you want, whether you're Windows, Mac, Linux. What we're doing here in this course is all cross-platform, from Angular to all the tools we're using. Everything can be used on any operating system. Now you want to get Node.js installed, which is a JavaScript runtime, and it comes with NPM or Node Package Manager, and that's what we're going to use to install Angular and its dependencies, as well as the command line interface when we get to that. So we're going to get that set up first. And then once we do that, we're going to install Visual Studio Code, which is a text editor. And you don't have to use this. You could use something like Atom or Sublime Text. Those are two really, really good editors as well. I'm using Visual Studio Code because I like the Angular 4 plugin that it has, and also it has an integrated terminal so that I don't have to keep switching back and forth to the command line and back to the editor. We can do everything on one screen, which is really helpful for teaching. Alright, so we're going to get that set up. We're also going to install something called Git and Git Bash. Okay, so Git is a version control system. Now that's not I'm not installing it to do version control. What I'm installing it for is the extra command line tool called Git Bash that it includes, which is a much better command line for Windows. Now we can also integrate this Git Bash tool with Visual Studio Code so that we can use it in the integrated editor. And to do that, we have this page here, which is part of the Visual Studio documentation, and it'll show us how to do that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with installing Node. So I'm going to download the recommended version, which for me at this time is version 6.11.0. Okay, and once that's done, we'll go ahead and open it up. It's just a simple Windows installer. So we're just going to click Next and accept the terms. Click Next. It's going to go into our Program Files folder and install. Alright, so Node has been successfully installed. Let's go ahead and click Finish. We can close that up. Now I'm going to download Visual Studio Code, and you can get this from code.visualstudio.com. Okay, it should start the download. Alright, we'll go ahead and open that up. And just like with the Node installer, we're just going to go through this really quick. And I'm going to choose to add the Open with Code options so that we can quickly right-click something and open it with Visual Studio Code. And we'll click Install. Alright, so that's all set. And if we check off Launch Visual Studio Code and click Finish, that'll start up the editor for us. Okay, so this is just kind of a welcome page here. Let's see, it's gonna open that up, close that. So this is the welcome page, and if we want, we can open up a folder, we can create a new file, all that good stuff. But we're just going to close that up. So now what I want to do is go back and install Git and Git Bash. So you can get this from git-scm.com, and we're going to go ahead and click this download for Windows. Okay, it's going to go to /download/win. Now if you're on a Mac and you want this, you can just go to download/Mac, and that'll get the correct version for you. Alright, so let's choose to open this when done. Okay, we're just going to fly through this installer as well. And let's see, for most of this stuff we're going to leave the default. This is the only screen that I'm going to change something, so I want to choose the last option, and that's to use Git and optional Unix tools from the Windows command prompt, so it'll give you some extra commands, some Unix-based commands that normally you wouldn't have access to. So we're going to choose that, click Next, and then just next through the rest of these. Alright, so that's all set. I'm just going to uncheck View Release Notes and click Finish. And then the last thing I want to do is integrate Git Bash with Visual Studio Code. Okay, now once you install Git Bash, you should get, well, I didn't get the icon on my desktop, but you should be able to just search for Git, and you have this Git Bash here. And if I open that up, the command line looks like this. Okay, and you can use this as well, but I'm going to integrate it with Visual Studio Code. So what I'm going to do is go back to Visual Studio Code, and then if I go to View and then Integrated Terminal, which is, where is it? It's right here. You'll see that by default it uses PowerShell, okay? And I don't want to use PowerShell, I want to use Git Bash. So to change that, what we can do is go to File, and then go to, where is it? We want to go to Preferences, Settings, and then the settings in Visual Studio Code are basically just a JSON file, okay? So whatever we want to change, for instance the font size, which I actually do want to change, we can just put it over here and it'll overwrite the initial settings. So let's actually grab that. And you don't have to do any of this. This is just, I want you guys to be able to see it. So I'm going to increase the font size. So I'm going to make it 20, let's do 24. Okay, I also want to increase the terminal's font size. So I'm just going to search here for terminal. And let's see. Actually, let's search for font. So let's see, where is it? Right here. So terminal integrated font size. I'm going to grab that, copy it, and I'm going to change that to 26. And then to integrate Git Bash, I'm going to go back to that documentation page here, and I'm just going to grab right here. So you can see how by default it uses PowerShell, but we're going to grab this for Git Bash. Copy that. And let's go over here and paste that in. Okay, so terminal integrated shell.windows, we're setting it to our Git Bash program. So that should be all that I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and do Control S and save it. And you'll see automatically the font has increased. Now down here it's still using PowerShell. For Git Bash to kick in, I'm just going to close that up and go back in. And now if I do View, and let's just click Allow Access there. So if I go View and then Integrated Terminal, now you'll see it's using the Git Bash prompt. Alright, and if you want to easily switch between the terminal and opening it and closing it, you can do a Control and then the tilde character, which is to the left of your number 1, and you can easily open and close it. Alright, so you don't have to keep going to View. So we now have our environment set up to start building Angular applications. And in the next video, what we're going to do is set up an Angular application using the Quick Start seed.